We're live. I see everybody, for the most part, is already in their Discord channels, eager to get started, so I will not take up too much of your time today. Just a couple pointers based on some of the stuff that I've seen in the channels that I think applies to all of you. But we should get going pretty quick here, so I'm just going to wait 1 minute, let's say, for everybody to get in, and then we'll just get right into it. And remember, some of you have meetings at the end of this, so, be ready for your weekly meetings. And to those of you in technical writing, note that I did just post the place for you to submit your resume, your second draft. If they're mostly good, second draft will be the last draft there. Might do a third if there's, I think, more to be had for it for some of you. I think the resume is the most important thing many will get out of that technical writing class. So, all right. That's been a minute. Hopefully everybody's in, so let's go into some of these details here. If there are any questions outside of this, just feel free to post those in either chat, any general questions about projects, especially pertaining to any of these topics. Post those in either chat. So first, licensing. Some of you have gotten into this a little bit. I know that the Avery Dennison project is going to be including it in their NDA as well, that you will have to properly credit all of the code that you use from anything you haven't written. So most of the libraries and APIs and things that ship with the language and the development environment, so anything that ships with, let's say, the Java development kit, can be used for free without any restrictions. You don't have to credit Java for giving you those APIs like systems.out.print and stuff. That would make no sense. Now Oracle is in a lawsuit against Google because Google pulled a Microsoft and decided they were going to copy Java because everybody copies Java because everybody writes in Java. And so the best way to get developers is just to make a new language, but copy all of Java's APIs exactly, pretty much. Google did this again with, I believe they call it Golang. And so Oracle sued Google. It has made it all the way to the Supreme Court. It has been delayed by the pandemic. Otherwise, we would probably have a decision by now. Oracle basically argues that they can copyright an API, and Java's API can be copyrighted. That means an API such as like system.out.print or math.random or math.max. Those are copyrightable functions. Right now, under the typical understanding of American law, those are basically like tools or mathematical functions, and they are too simple to be copyrightable. If Oracle prevails, they may very well be copyrightable. So it's a very thorny issue because Google really did basically take the Java API. At the same time, the idea that you can copyright an API is probably a bad one for society as a whole, but that's not what courts decide, right? They just decide what the law is now. So we'll see. Maybe there will be the legislation passed there later, but for now, long story short, you don't have to give credit for the APIs and the stuff that ships with the language that you use. Most open source projects and outside dependencies that you use, on the other hand, and I think almost all of you will use some, usually require something like share-alike or similar terms. You have to give them credit. Note that you are under the non-commercial use category, so if when you're reading the license, you are non-commercial use because you are not selling your product for money, so this would be non-commercial or educational use, even though it is being used by a corporation that will use it to make money. You're not making money off of it, and some part of the agreement may require you to also make your software free or free from any additional restrictions. So they might require it to also be open source, or they might require it to also be free otherwise. That's probably fine. You might want to double check with your client if you're not sure. So some clients might want you to make something that's for their private internal use, and they don't want the source code to be online after this is done. I don't think any of them will be in that particular category, but you can ask if they care that the code will remain on the internet after the project is done. Just make sure you emphasize to them that none of their data will be online, just the source code. And make sure that you properly credit all of your sources according to their licensing agreement. And generally, it's just a good idea to list all of the dependencies, libraries, tools, whatever that you used in the creation of your thing. Okay, so just another thing to think about right now. A lot of you are getting into the early phases of developing your front ends and your user interfaces. So I want you to think right now about who you're developing them for. We'll get into more UI work later. Right now you're obviously in the rough states. They don't have to look good or anything. You should be developing mock-up UIs, simple development-only UIs. You should not be working on your finished front-end products now because a lot might change on the back end or in the requirements, and your effort could be wasted, so don't spend too much time on the UI now. But think about, are you designing this for power users, novices, or something in between? I think most of you are probably designing something for power users because most of the people that use the software you're designing will probably be using it every day. So your job, or at least often, so your job is to prioritize the everyday experience for people who end up as experts. A lot of software out there is built for novices, so a lot of what you're used to, phone apps and stuff, built for novices instead. Or maybe something in between, maybe intermediate. So I know at least the Runestone folks, you guys are working on something for students. Students are kind of between power user and novice, especially CS students. They're not quite new to programming or any kind of environment like that. They're definitely new to your thing. It's tough. Think about it. Think about who it's for and what kind of skill level it's targeted at. Make sure that it's usable by non-CS people. And a lot of you will have to have some kind of settings or configuration that's used by a smaller group. So you have your app that's used by a larger group, and then you have settings or admin level stuff that's done by a smaller group. So by the teacher, by the manager, whatever. I think almost all the groups have a requirement that some kind of manager gets to do something with settings. So how do you expose those configuration settings in a clever way, in a usable way? So focus on the managers and the configuration setting experience too, because that's going to be important for all your projects. Don't just assume that they're going to configure it in an IDE or anything too. So you are definitely going to have to create an actual configuration settings part of your software where they can do it. Don't think that they're going to be editing text files or going into the IDE. Make a settings thing where they can actually do stuff with a nice looking front end. Don't expect them to do some weird janky system workaround. Data privacy, so it should be obvious, but don't push any of your clients' data to your public GitHub or anything where your code is being held. It is acceptable to discuss that private data on Discord probably. I don't think anything is too sensitive for discussion. Just don't upload the data to Discord. Just discuss it there. You could probably share your screen if it contains the data because that's not a recording. That's fine. You should have fake data somewhere on the archive so that anyone downloading it can run it using your fake data. So like if you're relying on a sheet, I think two of the groups have sheets, linked to a fake sheet that has just made up data that fits the same format that your real data is. This is going to be good for testing anyway. You should have a few fake sheets with different caveats to check for errors and do all your testing and all that sort of stuff. It's fine to have your source code up there on GitHub, but again, remember, give credit where credit is due. You might need to put it on the front page of your archive there, what you use, who you give credit for, how it's licensed, all that good stuff. And we're going to start recording your contributions this week, your individual contributions, and then how your group is going. So if you've been drawing up sketches or planning documents and things like that, hold on to those. Make sure your GitHub is all up and running and everything works this week. Make sure you know how you're going to be tracking who did what, all the different contributions. Make sure I can see who did what or whatever document it is where you're tracking that stuff. Again, I really would prefer that you do it directly in the source code. So wherever you have source code, that's also where your contributions should be listed. I should see like @author or something on everything that you've written or edited, and then your contribution if you edited it. Remember, your weekly meetings start this week, so your first stand-up is today or Thursday. Check the calendar. 2 teams go Tuesday, 2 teams go Thursday. And by next week, I will want to see something that runs, something that compiles and runs and is progress towards the task. So hopefully next week you got something running. And next week will also be the first week where you submit your biweekly progress report, where you can shed all over your group mates or tell me how great they're doing, and also tell me how your project is doing. in general, it should only take you a couple minutes to do. It's just going to be like, if you have 270, just basically that, a pie chart, how much everybody did, and that's about it. So keep an eye out for that. And that's going to be it. I will join your Scrum meetings in a minute here. Good luck. And just as a reminder, you do have to be on Discord for the whole class time here. But if you have to schedule like meetings with your customers and stuff like that, you can do that during class, and you can bail or mute yourself on Discord. If you want to schedule tours or something, you can also do that during class. You can feel free to do your customer interactions and stuff during class time. It's a convenient time when all of you are available, so I understand. But it's also very late, so I don't think most of your customers will want to talk to you at this time. All right, that's it. Thanks, guys.